course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams. Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dave, joined as always by the other host, Ike. Ike, how are you?
I am doing Spooktacular. I don't think I've used that one in a while.
I know. You know what it is? We have a shirt out there that says Spooktacular is a year-round event. Or, no, Spooktober. I'm sorry. Spooktober is a year-round event. See, try to plug the shirt, and I got it wrong. So, oh, boy. So let's get right to it. This week, we're going to review The Pope's Exorcist, a new movie that is still in theaters, but as we'll mention in just a bit, it is actually out now on video on demand, too. So we'll talk more about that in a bit, though. But Ike, since we last talked, what have you been up to? You watch anything good or anything?
Yeah, actually, I watched a few things. So I think I mentioned last week I watched rewatched the Conjuring movie again. This prompted me to watch the second Conjuring movie, so that was really good. I also watched the Insidious movies. They're actually, the first two are on HBO. I don't know, I just got a hankering for some demon-related content, I guess. And then I also watched Deep House on Paramount, which is a little bit of a different one. It's like an underwater haunted house movie. It's literally a house that was sunk as a part of some kind of like construction from like years prior, and there's ghosts, so that's cool. Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, that's interesting. I'll give it a shot. And then also I started the new season of American Horror Story NYC, and I got to be honest, I really like American Horror Story. I do have some favorite seasons and then some not so favorite seasons, and I gotta be real with you, this new season just has not caught me. I mean, the concept is great. I think that it's very much an interesting concept. It's just, I don't know, there's something about the season that is just not drawing me in. Like it's a real hard watch for me for some reason. So yeah, I'm struggling through that.
Maybe it'll get there. I'm still way behind. I don't even know what season I'm in. I started watching, try to catch up, and then I always get sidetracked and watching other stuff, and it's like I don't know. It's like I'll binge a season or a series for a bit, and then I'm like, I want to watch movies. And then usually though, how it always, you watch, especially within horror, you'll watch a movie, which then naturally leads to the sequel, which then naturally leads to like whatever parts 3 through 9, because pretty much every horror movie's got like multiple sequels. And I'm one of those guys that's like, I watch one, I want to see them all, even if they're all bad. I need the full verse of whatever it is I'm watching. So, as an example, this week I dove in and watched all 4 Jaws movies. And, I mean, obviously the first one's spectacular, and it's a classic. Second one's not too bad. The third one is, but it's kind of one of those guilty pleasure type movies, right? It's still got fun parts. It's got a young Dennis Quaid in it. It's got Lou Gossett Jr. in it. So it's still got some fun parts. And then you watch, but the only thing about 3 is it was filmed for 3D. And it's always, I still chuckle when I see those movies and you see those parts like clearly that were put in there for 3D. Right. Body parts falling in the water and stuff like that were clearly made for 3D. But it's still funny. And then you watch 4 and you're kind of like, but 4 does have what's his name? I think it's is it Lance Peterson from The Last Starfighter? One of my favorite movies of all time. Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this. And so I like that part. I think, is that his name, Lance Peterson? I'll have to look that up. But I love him because I love Last Starfighter. Let me see here. I'm looking up real quick. This is here we go. Oh, Lance Guest. I'm sorry, it's Lance Guest. I don't know where I got Peterson, but anyway, Lance Guest, who is the main guy in Last Starfighter, and he was in this. So gotcha. I do like him. So there's that. But so I completed that, and then today, as of we're recording it, which is on May 3rd, I watched The Craft because it was an anniversary of The Craft, and so I thought, oh hell, I haven't seen that in forever, and I watched it, and it was like, it's all right. It is what it is. It's nothing spectacular. It's got a good cast, but it's nothing like one of those that, oh yeah, that's an outstanding movie, but it's good. It's good enough. It's a fun movie. Lots of witch work in that one.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's all I watched this week. I don't know. I can't remember anything else.
I was gonna say I remember there was one other thing I watched. There's actually two other things, but one of them I cannot remember. I either was so bad that I forgot it, or like I have like early like just memory loss or something. But anyways, I have been watching. It's not like a scary movie, but it's kind of a scary show. Been watching Ghost Adventures, which is what's his name? Crap, Zach Bagans, which is like he's like the main guy. And like I know some people like when you talk about like ghost hunting shows, like Ghost Adventures is either like either somebody really likes a show or they really hate it. For instance, my wife's grandmother, she loves the Ghost Hunter show. I think there used to be called Taps or something like that. But like she hates Zach Bagans. She despises that man with a passion. Like won't watch the show. If she sees him in something, she won't watch it. I don't know why she's got beef with Zach Bagans, but she does. But like I love Zach Bagans. I think he's a pretty cool dude. You know, I think he does some good stuff. I know there's been some controversy about him actually. I guess like one of his like old like co-hosts or something like that came out and was spilling some tea. I don't know, but yeah, I've been watching that, so it's been pretty interesting getting to kind of go back and watch all those. And they actually did a couple episodes in Indiana that I watched, and I mean they're all right, but it was just cool to see them be in Indiana.
Yeah, always good to see some Hoosier content there.
That's right.
Speaking of locations, Ike, let's talk about.
Oh yeah,
we had an interesting week here, and I know you and I discussed this via text and everything else, but let's put it out there for the listeners. I mean, we put this on social media, but still, this weird thing, two weird things kind of happened in relation to the podcast this past week. Is that suddenly, for whatever reason, there's a website out there that kind of charts podcasts, right? It pulls all the charts together. They don't do anything. They're pulling like all the Apple charts and different things. And I check it quite regularly. And I get email alerts on our podcast, right? And I got an alert that all of a sudden, whatever reason, we had charted in Argentina. So I thought, interesting. And so I clicked on it, opened it up. Not only did we chart in Argentina, but in Film Review Podcast, we were at number 5. And then not only that, but in Film Review Podcast episodes, our Scream 6 episode was number 1. So I'm like, who's out there in Argentina listening to all of our shows? And then what happened, a day or two later, all of a sudden, I noticed that we had during this period, we had 33 downloads exactly in Spain in this short time period, or within a day, which we don't have a lot of listeners in Spain normally. So I thought, and then I started thinking, well, at that time we have 33 episodes out. So I got looking at the details, and yes, in Spain there was 1 download for each of our 33 episodes. So I felt like, was there someone in Spain that was binging our podcast? But then I thought about it more. I thought, well, wait a minute. Could it possibly be? I mean, yes. Could it be someone in Argentina and Spain? Yes. Or is this somebody using a VPN?
Yeah.
Or something that is kind of bounce their location around. Who knows? I'm not sure why what they're listening to us on, where they think they need a VPN to listen to our podcast. But I guess whatever. But it was weird. It was whatever. I mean, we're charting in the other countries. So I mean, maybe I don't think the competition's quite as stiff for film review podcast probably in Argentina. So I'm not saying we had this mad dash of downloads, but enough to get us in the top 5. So thank you to our Argentinian, or however you say it, listeners out there, I guess. That's wow. Yes. We'll take it.
We will. Absolutely. Shout out to our fans. Thank you very much.
I guess. I don't know. Kind of weird. So let's get on with it. We were originally planning to do a wives rebuttal, but we couldn't get the schedules, everything to work out with the wives and all. So that's cool. That's okay. That's all right, because we were prepared for this, right? We've had a backup plan where if there was ever an additional week in a month or something happened or whatever, we had a new segment that we were going to just use in emergency type situations. We have busted the glass, pulled the alarm, and we have which is kind of ironic that I make a fire alarm reference, because this new segment is called
Horror Hot Take.
So basically what this is, Ike, is either you, me, or both of us, whatever it might be, is going to have a hot take on something horror related, a movie, whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be specific, whatever it is. And you've got one. I don't even know what this is yet. You've got one that you're going to talk about. I'll see if I can, if I agree or if I chime in. But one of the keys is, right, it's a hot take, right? So you're expecting that this is going to push some buttons to some people out there, right? There's going to be people that are going to strongly disagree with your opinion on what you're going to talk about. So if you're out there listening to us and you do strongly agree, or if you agree, hit us up on social media and let us know what you think. So we'll see what I think, because like I said, I have no idea what you're going to talk about yet. So let's dive into it. What is you're the one here? You're on the seat for the inaugural episode here. What is your hot take that you want to unveil to the world?
Absolutely. Let me preface it by saying I am full of fucking hot takes. All right. I have these things loaded in like a freaking Browning machine gun, ready to fire off at a moment's notice. And I let me preface it by saying I was going to talk about my dislike for the first Friday the 13th movie, which is a hot take, right? But I thought I've talked about that before. It's used up. And I thought, what else could I talk about that's going to elicit a reaction from probably, I would say, the majority of people? And you know what? I'm here. You ready for this?
Yeah, lay it on me.
I'm laying it on you. In my opinion, in my professional opinion, as a professional horror movie podcaster, I think that modern supernatural movies, modern exorcism movies, are significantly better than anything prior to the year 2000. Anything. I don't care about what movie it is. Don't get me wrong. The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, all of these movies have very significant, I would say, historical value at this point. And I know that probably hurts some people's souls to hear me say that. But the reality is that these movies are 30 to 40 years old. If you're talking about Rosemary's Baby, it's 50 years old. And while these movies do definitely have their quirks and their good things, the modern horror genre has generated some of the best possession movies, and I would say significantly better movies. And this comes off of watching the Pope's Exorcist. This comes off of watching the Conjuring movies, the Insidious movies. I mean, there are so many movies that are so much better. Devil. I mean, there are so many good movies in this modern genre that I think outpace the previous generation significantly.
So let me get this straight. So you're saying blanket statement that pretty much everything. What do you say? Post 2000 on something. How are you?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So 2000 on. You're saying blanket statement that. Are you saying all those movies, or the vast majority of them are better than? Let's just say specifically, they're better than The Exorcist.
I would say a good majority of them are. I would say.
And you're not saying just effects or anything. You're saying overall movie as a whole, everything, package deal, and the overall.
Right. In terms of sitting down and watching the movie and enjoying the movie, I much more enjoy the modern movies. And here's the thing, I'm not normally like that. I'm 100% the person to tell you that like old zombie movies, for instance, are better than a lot of the modern zombie movies, right? With a few exceptions. But like when it comes to these paranormal movies, these supernatural movies, sure, The Exorcist is great. I love The Exorcist movie. I think that's a great movie. But I will not pretend that it is somehow better than like The Conjuring, for instance. We'll say that. Let's narrow the scope a little bit. I think The Conjuring is a better movie than The Exorcist. I would say by a significant margin. The Conjuring movie, the movies, however you want to put it, have a significant margin on The Exorcist. And I know how that could come across, right? I'm some young whippersnapper who's talking shit about The Exorcist. But here's the deal. The Exorcist, in my opinion, at this point in time, is dated. All right, and I can't like. There are a lot of movies that aged well, and there are a lot of movies that are generally recepted well in the current world that we live in, and generally The Exorcist is. It's just when you watch The Exorcist, it almost to me, The Exorcist almost feels cheesy. Like the first time I watched it was great, but like subsequent watches have not been as good. And I remember I watched it about a couple months ago, just cause, and I was just like, man, I was like, this isn't as good as I thought it was. And then I started watching Conjuring and I'm like, well, damn, the Conjuring movies are great. I mean,
Oh,
significantly so. I don't know.
interesting.
I've always been a purist too. I've always been that kind of person that normally would be like, yeah, the originals are better. But in this case, I can't say that. And I would even go as far to say that I'm really excited for the Exorcist remake that's supposed to come out this year. And I have very high hopes that the modern adaptation will probably
Well,
surpass the original.
supposedly the rumor is it's not going to be a remake. It's going to be more of a
True.
requel type thing. So
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, I see. I mean, I can see some of that. Yes, there are with some movies. I don't think I agree with the Exorcist part because I love the Exorcist,
Right.
but I do love the Conjuring movies too. But I would not say I don't like the Conjuring more than the Exorcist. But the Conjuring is very very good, and that I mean the whole series. And so, but I mean I can see how you would think some of them are better than many of those movies because yeah, some of those movies are not correct. Whatever. I mean, that always happens. When something's successful, you get some bad takes on that genre that always try to feed off. But so yeah, okay. I mean, that's your hot take. So people, if you're let's keep it straight. If you're gonna hit us up on social media, this is Ike's hot take. Now I'm not wholeheartedly agreeing with him here, but again, it's a matter of opinion. So I respect it. That's all right. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
like I said, I love The Exorcist, but I'm not taking it personally. So it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
And I do want to make it clear, I'm not attacking Exorcist fans, obviously. I don't have any reason to. I mean, it's just in my opinion, I just feel like the newer genre, a new generation of movies, they have a lot more to offer than some of these older generation movies do. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's always how movies are. It's just
Yeah.
the way of the water. 20 years from now, the people will be saying the same thing about The Conjuring, I'm sure.
Well, so we'll have to remember then later in the year, it'll be interesting when we're going to have a new chapter in both The Conjuring and The Exorcist to
Yeah.
see what you take then on comparing those two, because that might be more apples to apples there when you're talking the two franchises, but more at the same time period, production wise, and see what you think. Not outside, not the entire franchise wise or anything else. Just comparing the new entries when they
Yeah.
come out. That'll be curious to see what you think then of just those two.
Yeah, it's actually weird that I picked those two movies that are also getting like new movies this year, weirdly enough.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Kind of a big year for supernatural type stuff.
It really is. It really is. And there's so much more
But
coming.
but to be fair, I mean, like you said, I mean, we're talking. It's quite a run. I mean, has it really subsided? I
No,
mean, it's like every couple of years we're getting new chapters of these things. So it's just, I mean, let's be real. Supernatural stuff's always been there, always been there. I mean, you take it back as far as you want. There's always been movies that have had their take on the supernatural, right? Because it's such an unknown. Because so you can pretty much give it whatever coat of paint and interpretation you want, and who's going to say you're wrong, right?
exactly.
So it's kind of a wide open canvas, So it's interesting. So all right, well, there's the first hot take, and it was pretty hot. Yeah, that's pretty. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we get a response.
Had a little steam behind it. I have
A little
plenty
bit,
more. I have plenty more where that comes
a
from.
little
So
bit. I bring a little smoke there. That's all right.
that's
But
right.
all right, well, let's pause, and when we come back, we'll talk about some news and birthdays and anniversaries.
Make sure you subscribe to Listen to Their Screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 and Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
And we're back with some news. Tell me the news. We have Chucky and Tiffany Monster High dolls. Oh my God, I've not heard of Monster High in years. They were released on MattelCreations.com and have sold out. Oh Lord, wow, Monster High. I did not know they were still making those dolls. I mean, that's pretty cool though. I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff, I mean, I'm not shitting on nobody's, pastime, but hey, that's cool.
Yeah. But Mattel Creations is a limited run thing, right? Where they only do so many. I mean, they do it for all the properties. I follow Mattel Creations for the Masters of the Universe stuff. Never really bought from it, but it's kind of their way of where they can produce these things, but they're very targeted at the true collectors, and they don't have to pay the shipping and all the supply chain stuff. So they did sell out real quick because I'm sure they were only doing it so many. But I did see a picture of them. The Tiffany looks pretty good. The Chucky, I don't know. It's okay. I mean, it's clearly Chucky, but the hair was a little weird. But not my thing. I love. Don't get me wrong. I love Child's Play, and I love Chucky and Tiffany. But Monster High dolls are not really my thing. So
Hey, everybody's got their thing. Monster High dolls just happen not to be ours. But Halloween 1978 is getting a tabletop game release from Trick or Treat Studios. It is due out in August and will retail for $59.95. I love tabletop games. I love horror movies, and I think this is going to be great. $59.95 is also not a bad retail price for something that seems pretty niche. So I think that'll be good. Are you going to check that out, Dave?
yeah, probably it'll be fun. I like games too. We're getting a lot of these, right? We're getting I think we've talked recently about a Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, maybe a Scream one, and everything else. But unbelievably, I think when I read this is the first tabletop game based on the original Halloween. As from what I read, which seems weird to me. But I mean, because not like Halloween's not marketed on everything. But yeah, it's exciting. I mean, Halloween '78, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. You get a tabletop game. That sounds fun. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And speaking of, Supernatural and Exorcist, the Pope's Exorcist, which we are reviewing later this episode, is available for rent or purchase on video-on-demand platforms. And also released on video-on-demand is Renfield, which we reviewed not last week, the week before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Lord. And this one, actually, I'm excited for. I have heard this.
Me too.
Yeah,
tell this. We're going to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I know what it's about, but I've not watched any trailers or anything. But
I haven't watched the trailers yet,
but yeah.
But
so
I know the
basically,
background. So talk about it here. Let's go.
right. So basically, there's this movie. It's called The Third Saturday in October. And there's part 5, and then Third Saturday in October, part 1 will both be released on video on demand on May 5th. So from what I've heard, part 1 is like the first one, part 5 is the second one, or something like that. And if I remember correctly, it's kind of spoofing on like how all these horror movies have all these parts and stuff. But it's supposed to just be kind of like a traditional slasher kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's these are supposed to be tributes to kind of 80s slashers. And the concept is, from what I've heard, is what they have thought is back in the video store days, right? If you went to the video store and say you were looking to rent whatever, say you were going to rent Friday the 13th Part 2, right? That's the one you wanted to see. So you race to the video store and you get there and it's gone, but you really want to see Jason, so you end up watching like Jason Takes Manhattan, which I love, but still, it's not what you went there for, right? Or if you're just going because you want to watch a Friday the 13th movie, maybe you've never seen one, but you can't watch the first one and watch them in order. Well, that's less part 6. So, okay, well, you're going to watch part 6. So you're watching it out of order, right? Because that's what's there. That's what's available. That's the thought of this, right? You're supposed to watch part 5 first and then watch part 1. There is no 2, 3, or 4. They're not making a 2, 3, or 4, at least as it stands now. That's not the way it's going to be. It is just these two. They're numbered this way because it's like they're playing it off like it's a discovered old slasher franchise, right? And this is all that's left. It's part 5 and part 1, and it's intended to watch part 5 first, then part 1. It's pretty clever. I like it. But yeah, it's supposed to be, it's not a mockery or anything. It's supposed to be a very tip the hat tribute, homage to the old slasher movies of the 80s and early 90s. So I'm super. I love slashers. And I love this. I love the concept. It's clever. It sounds fun. It makes me feel like these people, whoever's behind this, they know what they're talking about, and they enjoy the genre. So and like we've said before, passion comes through, right? And so if they've got the passion, it's just going to add to it. It sounds fun. I can't wait to watch these.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. So check it out, May 5th. We'll be checking it out. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit on the next episode or something.
We're not reviewing them, but yeah, we'll talk about it like in our open or something. I'm sure. I guarantee you, we'll both watch it. Probably the weekend it comes out. I guarantee you, and more than likely. So yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it and what we watched and get into a little discussion.
There you go. All right, moving on to some birthdays. We have May 4th, 1977, Emily Perkins, who is famously known for Supernatural, Ginger Snaps, and It.
Hey, one of my favorites.
I'm pretty sure we talked about her recently because we were talking about Ginger Snaps.
Yeah. I bring her up all the time. I mean, it's so because I end up forcing Supernatural into every episode in some way. So just the way it is. But yeah, she played Becky in Supernatural, right? Which was the super fan of the Supernatural series, the book series. But yeah, then she was in Supernatural, and then she played the young girl in the original It. Or no, I'm sorry, not in the original It, not in 1980. She wouldn't have. Well, no, she wouldn't have been. Never mind. It's in the new take on it. I got confused there. She plays the young girl. No, wait, that doesn't make sense either, does it?
Yeah, I think she was in the original because she was.
It was the original.
Young,
yeah. I was confused about my time. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, it does make sense. But then I got thinking of it. I'm like, well, hell no, it wouldn't be in the new ones because she would have been a grown ass adult. So I'm very confused there, and I'm sorry. She was in the original miniseries. She played the young girl in it. There you go.
There you go. And then on May 5th, 1889, wow, Jack Pierce from the Universal makeup artist. So wow, he's probably passed by now, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. He's long past. But he is all the Universal monsters. He's the guy that created the look, created the makeup, created the techniques. This is the guy. If you talk to Tom Savini, you talk to any of these guys, Jack Pierce was the guy that laid the foundation for what they did. He was, him and Lon Chaney. They were the two that they created this, right? But Jack Pierce it was his job on all those classic monster movies from Universal to make them look like what you see on the screen. And obviously, talented guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also have on May 6th, 1961, George Clooney, known for such movies as From Dusk Till Dawn and many others, and possibly an even scarier movie, Batman and Robin. So it's
yeah. I bet we're not gonna knock those Batmans because while I'm an '89 and Batman Returns guy, the other two I still have lots of nostalgia for them because, man, I lived through that time, and it's a wonderful thing when the whole country is wrapped up in Batmania.
Love it.
But yes, Clooney was not my favorite Batman, but still.
Yeah, don't worry, I do like those movies. It's just the nipples, man. The nipples on Batman always get me.
Yeah. But it is what it is.
And then we also have some really interesting movie anniversaries. May 7th, 1999, we have The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser. Obviously, Brendan Fraser is kind of making a career renaissance, but I feel like The Mummy was one of his really big blockbuster movies. He did a lot of comedies and stuff before, like Encino Man. The Mummy, I really love The Mummy. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I always loved Brendan Fraser though, right? I love those cheesy comedies. I love the Encino Man. I love the George of the Jungle. I love the Dudley Do Right. All those kind of movies. I don't know where they fall in the timeline here, but when the Mummy came and that whole series or whatever, that vaulted him next level. It took him from comedy guy to action hero kind of guy, so to speak, and it put him on another level. But it's a good series. The first movie's great. I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. And then we also have Urban Legend from May 8th, 1996. Urban Legend, that's another interesting one. I haven't watched it in a few years, but it has a very interesting cast. It has a very young Jared Leto, if I remember correctly, and some other people who I cannot remember. But yeah, that's an interesting one. I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah, me too. It's been a long time, but I remember enjoying it. It's one of those movies again. It's just you kind of forget about. And you wonder, then when something like this comes up, I wonder, well, why have I never revisited that movie and watched it? But hey, I watched The Craft today, so maybe I'll watch Urban Legend soon, coming up soon.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then last but certainly least, we have Friday the
Yeah.
13th from May 9th, 1980. Obviously, I've talked about Friday the 13th Part 1, I mean, a billion times, so I'm not going to continue talking about it. But yeah, not my favorite, but it is definitely an important piece of history. And we got this, what is it, 43 years ago in 1980?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, for nothing else, it's, I mean, historically important in the horror genre, of course. So
True. If nothing else. If nothing else.
you already did your hot take, man. Get off it.
I already did. I'll get off my soapbox. Old man yelling at the clouds over here. But with that being said, I think that's enough news, birthdays, disparaging classic movies. When we come back, we are going to review The Pope's Exorcist.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes.
All right, we're back here on Listen to Their Screams, and it is review time, and we are talking about The Pope's Exorcist, which is still in theaters, I believe. I'm pretty sure so. It is locally here. I don't know for how much longer, but as we spoke of, it is coming to video, or it is on video demand, I'm sorry. So watch it however you want. But before we get into it, The Pope's Exorcist is a supernatural horror movie. And in the past, we like to throw out when we talk about these subgenres of horror, and people really like it when they give these definitions, because like we've said in the past, a lot of people may not know exactly what is a supernatural horror movie, right? They don't know what does that entail. What is that? And I know even if you're a longtime fan of like horror or whatever it is, it sometimes can be intimidating to try to ask someone or go out there. You don't want to feel stupid, right? And no one's stupid. It is what it is. So let's talk about just briefly what a supernatural horror movie is. And I just pulled this definition out there. A supernatural horror is a work or fiction that relies heavily on supernatural or paranormal elements to drive the story, featuring things like ghosts, monsters, demons, aliens, witchcraft, zombies, and so on. The main source of terror in supernatural horrors tends to be the human reaction to being faced with the unknown, usually in the midst of a serious conflict, i.e. a haunting, a possession, an invasion, a curse, an omen, etc. Basically, this is, if you take all those things, the old folk tales, all the Weekly World News stories, all the campfire stories, all those things that people say are true, that are out there, but you can't prove them, right? And only a few people have seen them, and only a few people experience. All those things are considered supernatural, right? Yeah. It's stuff that it's other realmly, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what you call it. It's just not something that has been proven definitively, honestly, yes or no, right? And I'm not here to argue what is and what isn't. Do I think there is weird ass supernatural paranormal shit out there? Yes, 100% I do. Do I believe all of it is out there? No, absolutely not. The world, man, it's too wacky a place that there's not some of this shit, right? There's some of I believe that, but that's not what we're going to discuss here, though. But that is pretty much what a supernatural horror movie is like. Do you concede? Do you think that's a pretty good definition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think supernatural, like you said, I think probably supernatural is probably one of the most broad and vast genres of horror movies, just because there's so much stuff that can be put under that umbrella. So absolutely, I would definitely agree with this definition. I think it in my opinion, it pretty much portrays, I would say, every single supernatural movie I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, absolutely. I think the big thing too is that they're faced with a conflict of some sort, and it's unexplained. I mean, that's really, I feel like the kind of the end all be all is that it's an unexplained conflict of some supernatural order. And yeah, absolutely, like you said, not to go into semantics about what actually exists or doesn't. It's just whether or not it's this unknown. And absolutely one of my favorite genres of horror movies too, I might add.
Yeah, it's fun. And obviously, I don't know, you don't really break down that. You can break down supernatural even finer as far as the genre, right? Because you have possession type movies, you have invasion type movies, I think a movie like The Pope's Exorcist is very different than like I don't know, War of the Worlds where there's an alien invasion. I mean,
Right.
it's they're yeah, why we could call them both supernatural or paranormal. They're still very different. Uh, and a lot of supernatural, particularly when you're discussing demons and things like that, there's a lot of religious connotations involved.
Yeah.
Obviously, because a lot of what these, well, not I don't say a lot, but several of components of this are, it's exploring is there an afterlife? What happens to, what is a soul? What happens to a soul? And let's be real. Most of my definition of all this kind of shit is drawn from the Supernatural TV show, and what's what. But anyway, so again, there is a lot of religion, which is why you get a movie like The Pope's Exorcist, right? And now The Pope's Exorcist it's based on a real movie, or based on real happenings, right? It's a book written by the Pope's Exorcist. It's been out for a few weeks. I didn't pull all the box office numbers. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. That in its debut weekend, it was like number 4 or something. It was did pretty well. But this is all based on the writings of the Pope's Exorcist. The Pope's. I don't know whether this is still a position. I'm assuming there is some of that still. I don't know, but there was a Pope's Exorcist, and this guy was it. And this is supposedly pulled from his books, and they even the tongue-in-cheek make reference about the books he wrote in the movie, where he asked the guy, the kid, the younger priest, he says that he's read all the articles, and the Pope's the Exorcist guy says, "Oh, did you read the books?" And he's like, "Oh no, I haven't read the books." He says, "Oh, you should read the books. The books are good." And then they did that at the end. It's pretty funny. The movie was fun, right? It was a fun movie. Russell Crowe, I love Russell Crowe. I love the way he played it. I love that the Exorcist. I don't remember his name. It was Gabrielle, right?
Yeah,
Was that his name?
it's like Gabrielle Amorth.
Yeah. So I'll just call him Gabrielle or Gabe. We'll call him Gabe. That's easy to remember. Gabe or Gabrielle. Gabe. I love how he was obviously a man of faith, a man of religion, right? He's in a prominent position within the Catholic Church, appointed by the Pope himself, right? He's faced in front of a tribunal or a panel, and he tells me, "Hey, you got to speak to my boss." Well, his boss is the Pope.
Right.
But I love how, despite all that, right, he still has this sense of humor, and he's still. I mean, he's like walking around with the nuns. He's like riding around. He's like cuckoo, cuckoo. He keeps saying that. I was cracking up at that stuff. And then he's riding around on this moped thing, and it's just cracked me up. And he's carrying a flask with him with whiskey. It was hilarious. So I like how he was, despite where he was a very human person, right? He knew he had his flaws, and he defined it. The movie was great. I love the way it was shot. I love the kid that was possessed was scary as hell, and did a great job. Then his sister's possessed, and she did a great job. It was great. But then it started going next level with shit, right? They started finding different things, catacombs and things that had been closed off by the Vatican, sealed away by the Vatican themselves. And it clearly wasn't just an exorcism, right? And I love how this guy, Gabriel, talks early on that, hey, you know what? The majority of these things I'm called out to, they're not really possessions. They're not really exorcisms. And he had come to the point where he realized, hey, it just takes a little psychology, right? A little mind play to get this, to get these people to break out of this, right? Because it's like during a time when mental health and mental things, mental conditions were not really talked about a lot or not really addressed a lot. He seemed a little ahead of that. He was talking about why he wasn't labeling it. He was aware that, hey, this is not a possession. This is something else, a condition. So, and I like that part of it. So I rambled on there with a little bit of overview. Tell me a little bit of what you were thinking of The Pope's Exorcist when you watched it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would definitely agree that, having watched this and done a little bit of the background research about who, Father Gabriel was and everything else, obviously the concept of exorcism, it's honestly probably one of the most controversial opinions of like any religious institution, whether or not exorcisms are real, whether they exist, whether they're slightly real, but and I think one of the biggest things that this movie addresses, like you said, it definitely approaches sort of like that I guess theological aspect of most of these exorcisms are not exorcisms. They're mentally unwell people. And, something that the movie really dives into is that, Gabriel Morth, had a lot of guilt over one of his previous, attempts at exorcism is that, he didn't believe that a person needed help. And that's kind of, part of his like storytelling and sort of his character development is that, he realized too late that giving an exorcism is not always about exorcising a demon. Sometimes it's literally just about understanding or trying to hear from somebody like, hey, what's going on inside your head?
Yeah.
So the Pope's Exorcist, in my opinion, it really, I mean, it's very critical of the Catholic Church. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. I would maybe say that I have like some spiritual tendencies because I do believe that there's good and evil, and I do believe that there are such a thing as demons. I don't know, how I'm willing to classify it, but I do believe that there are demons in this world. But I'll say this. I've never watched a horror movie that had sort of like that political aspect where it is very much so, I mean, criticizing the Catholic Church. And obviously the Catholic Church is under a lot of criticism for a lot of things. But, this one definitely paints a picture that doesn't depict them very well.
Yeah, it even dabbled a little in some of the indecencies and sexual indecencies involved because the girl that you spoke of, that it was his guilt that he didn't help. She was, he indicated she was being abused. There was things happening and he didn't dive into it. He didn't want to believe, or he didn't want to, say that was part of the church that could be there. And so he wasn't able to help her because he didn't believe her. All right. He just thought this was another one of those things. So yeah, it did touch on a lot of the, I don't know what you want to say, the, whatever the question, I don't want to say questionable things, but a lot of the controversies that you come to hear about the Catholic Church.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I really respect that part of it. Absolutely. Like I was really surprised that they went that route. Just because it's not something that a lot of people are willing to talk about. It's not a lot of things that people want to talk about. So I was really surprised that they went that route. And after having watched the movie, they literally made, I would say, one of the probably point by point perfect exorcism movies, because they didn't try to go like the fanciful route of like, I cast thee unto hell, they were reading legitimate rites of exorcism. And, and that was something that I really thought was interesting because, a fun fact about me, one of the things that I like to research in my free time are, with these movies is like, how realistic are they? And they were reading legitimate rites of exorcism that the Catholic Church used at that time. So, and not only that, like you said, our dear friend Russell Crowe, I mean, he was speaking, I mean, I'm assuming he can speak fluently in real life, but he was speaking fluent Italian. He was speaking pretty great Latin. I mean, literally was just knocking it out of the park, 100%. And then, so you have like a really great exorcism movie. You have fantastic performances literally on every aspect. You have the kid who is possessed, who, in my opinion, no offense to Linda Blair, did a better job than Linda Blair. And definitely it had a lot of those, similar points of, other exorcism movies. And, so you have a really good Exorcist movie. You have a really good, controversial kind of movie that kind of addresses very real subjects that need addressing. And then also you have the historical perspective that this is a real person. Gabriel Morth was a real person who had these very real opinions and who was very controversial within the Catholic Church, but was generally regarded well from people outside of the church, right? So it was just a very interesting, approach that they had. And generally the movie was really entertaining and fun to watch. And it definitely felt like the stakes were high too. That was another thing, is that the movie definitely gave you high stakes in terms of like what would happen if Gabriel Morth, doesn't complete his mission. You know what I mean? And that was another thing, is that I was like, wow, I guess that would make a lot of sense for a demon to do, is, spoiler alert, obviously. The whole premise of this is that the demon, who we learn is Asmodeus,
Who was in Supernatural.
who is a supernatural.
A little different, but
Right. But Asmodeus specifically is wanting to possess Father Gabriel to infiltrate the Vatican. And if you think about it logically, right, you watch all these demon possession movies, and they ask a very important question in this, right? Gabriel Morth asks, why would a demon want to possess, some like random person in the middle of nowhere, right? You know what I mean? Like, he literally asks that because in the very beginning of the movie, the cold open is there's a potential possession, and he basically approaches them, and they actually explain away the exorcism, that like it wasn't an actual exorcism. This person was not actually possessed.
Yeah.
They just needed mental help, obviously. But he actually literally addresses that, like, in all these exorcism movies, like, why are these people being possessed? Like, demons have an agenda, right? Purportedly, they have an agenda, the downfall of humanity. How is them possessing some random Joe Schmo in the middle of nowhere in any way, shape, or form, advancing that, directive? And so this movie addresses that by saying this demon possessed this kid who is a vulnerable person who they knew that the church would try and help, right? Because it wanted to get to Father Gabriel specifically.
Yeah.
So definitely a great setup, definitely a great concept, and honestly, it really touched on a lot of things. Didn't leave any loose ends that I could find, at least. And yeah, sorry, I mean, I can't give enough praises for how this movie approached the concept of an exorcism. It was refreshing, honestly.
Yeah, and I also like. I mean, they sprinkled enough humor in it where it was good. It was good comic relief, and I don't mean that over the top, because it wasn't over the top, but just little things, right? Where he asked, he asked the guy to say the prayer, where he was like, "Oh, I don't speak that." It's close enough to the Spanish. It's just little stuff like that was just made you chuckle a little, because it's important. Now, if I have any qualms about the movie, is the finish. The finish was a little busy for my taste, right?
Yeah.
It was just. And I mean, it was okay, but then it's just I felt though towards the end, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is really what happened according to his writings. I don't know, but just the whole, I feel like it's like, oh, we've just formed the Avengers type thing, right? It's like, oh, there's 199 other spots. We got a lot of work to do here, or you got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. Are you ready? And it's like we formed. I don't know, that it was. It felt the whole movie felt very genuine to me, except for that end. It just felt a little hokey to me, and too much of the, okay, we're setting up for that sequel.
Yeah.
It's coming, because hey, we're buddies now, and we're the Exorcist team, and we're going to go out there, and it's just, I don't know. I think it just felt so out of place from the rest of the movie. It was, I don't know. It was just a little hokey. And then that, yeah, like I said, that when they were beating Osmond, it was good, but then it was like they tried to make it so dramatic that I almost felt like they upped it a little too much. That they maybe, I don't know what I would have done differently, because I understand, I liked where it went with the concept. And I understand what was what's supposed to happen, and I got all that. There was just something with the presentation. It was, I don't know. There was a little much to it. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on. I do like when Russell Crowe, Gabe's character, the Gabe character, was possessed, and he was sitting in that throne-like thing with the staff thing. He looked very cool. And so I don't know. I mean, that was, the whole movie was great. Like I said, the ending was just a little much, and then that end felt a little hokey to me. I understand you want to segue for potential future stuff, and you want to put a bow on it and wrap it up, but it felt kind of weird to me that here they are in the crypts of the Vatican, and the whole we got a lot of work. I don't know. It's just, it felt a little out of place to the movie somehow for me, but that's a minor complaint in the overall scheme of the movie. I mean, I'm not going to trash the whole movie based on 5 minutes at the end. That felt a little bit off in context for me, but.
Right. No, I do agree with that. I definitely agree with that, because I even kind of made a joke. I was like, they were definitely going the Avengers route with that last little bit, and I get why they did it, because it quite frankly, I think that this movie was very successful. It did very well, given all things considered. And they already have talked about greenlighting another movie, and it's like I see why they kind of set it up that way, because it does. It opens it up to the rest of the series, and Gabriel North has a lot of books that he's written about exorcisms and things like that. So I see why they did it. I just think that they could have done it in less of a buddy cop fashion.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they're very clearly establishing, okay, there's more to this, whether they do it or not. There's more, right? And there's a clear cut. Here it is. Here's Father Gabriel, the demon hunter, right? This is the guy, right? And I get that. They were trying to put the exclamation point on it to establish it. And here's his Robin sidekick, whatever that guy's name was, that was with him. That was the young guy that was, with him. And and I understand. I get the concept, but just everything in that movie felt real natural, right? And their interactions and the way they talked, it felt real natural and real smooth. And then that got to that part, and I'm like, ooh, that didn't feel, that. I mean,
that felt a little otherly than genuine.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what it was about it. And here I'm thinking there's this young priest, right, who's never probably been very much out of his little local church in his town or village or whatever. And here he is, all of a sudden he's meeting the Pope, and he's meeting this, and here he is in this private, secure part of the Vatican and seeing things that very few people have ever seen or whatever else, and he's not losing his shit. I mean, come on, I'm like, I know what he saw a lot of already, what happened, but I'm still, you think he would just be like, oh crap, where, I don't know.
No, yeah, I think, obviously I don't know, how they do things in the Vatican, but I think you'd probably be a little more awestruck.
You would think, but I do get that. I think they try to take that character, the young priest, from the beginning of the movie to the end, and they try to grizzle him a lot, right? From this young, innocent, damaged priest who had this thing to who obviously loved God and obviously loved his work and everything else, and was very devout to that and very dedicated to that. Maybe not so devout, but he was dedicated to that. But by the end, he was like full blown. Okay, now I've seen shit, and now I get it, right? I made the right choice. There is a bigger fight, and I get that, but it's just, I don't know. It's just at the end he was way too calm, and that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what. Again, it's I don't know how I would have. I don't know. It's almost like I would have dropped the entire last bit after they met the Pope and saw that the one guy was kind of running things now on the the council thing, and I think I just would have kind of left it at that maybe.
Yeah, I think that they could have comfortably ended there. Like I said, leave out the little buddy cop portion of the movie. And I think it probably would have been just fine. I don't think that you're really missing much. You definitely could have set up sequel movies, because honestly, I kind of feel like they're alluding to that other Vatican higher up that was kind of grilling Father Gabriel in the beginning. I think I think they're kind of alluding to that he took a leave of absence to Guam. I think he got possessed personally. I think that's how they're going with that, is that he got possessed and he's leaving because of the possession. And I think when he comes back, he's going to be possessed. And I feel like that'll probably be maybe the next movie or the movie after or something. I don't know. But, I definitely feel like they could have set it up in a much different way for future movies. But it like you said, if you were to break a movie into 100%, 100 percentages, 95% of the movie was really good. So I don't think I'm gonna let that last 5%, bother me too much. But I do agree, it definitely could have been done differently.
Yeah, I think it just had established enough. I think we all knew what was happening here, right? There was a lot of shit out there still to fight, a lot of demons out there to fight, a lot of stuff going on. These two had bonded and obviously had developed a partnership, friendship. I think they were okay. I think we knew. And then leading into the next movie, I think we would have been like, oh yeah, okay, I see what they're doing. They're fighting, just doing this together. I think we had that. I just don't think they needed to, I don't know, put a hat on a hat. I just think it was a little weird. But that's I don't know. That's kind of my major qualm about it. But still a very fun movie, very enjoyable movie. I really did like it. Like I said, I went early on a Sunday. I don't know if that's sacrilegious or not. Early on a Sunday and watched this movie. And at the beginning, the first few minutes of it, as it started, I was the only one in the theater, and I thought, "Ooh, this is gonna be something." And then there ended up, I don't know, there wound up, I don't know, 10, 12 people in their total after they all came in a little late. It was weird, just like a little group. So I didn't end up being the only person. So
that's good.
I guess, but so all right, let's rate this thing. Ike, I'll let you rate it first. So out of 5 screams, what are you giving the Pope's Exorcist?
I think I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I think the big thing to remember is that I wouldn't quite put this on a 4 because 4 is like a really good movie, a movie that like you would put up there like, I think I rated Evil Dead a 4. I think I rated Terrifier 4, Skinamarink a 4. This isn't quite Terrifier level, kind of as a basis of comparison, but it was better than a 3. 3 is kind of middle of the line. Like I liked it a lot. It was a good movie, but it was just kind of your average horror movie. I don't think that this was your average horror movie. I think this one definitely took another step above and beyond. It was very enjoyable. I would go out of my way to rewatch this, so 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I was thinking. It was a 3.5. That's why I was curious. I wanted to see. I had 3.5 mine. I wanted to see if you were going 4 with it because I was kind of wondering. And again, I agree because 3.5 is strong to me. 4 to me, there's got to be. I don't know. There's got to be something there. I don't know how to. Not a little. I don't want to say groundbreaking, but something that sets it apart wholeheartedly. And while this movie was fun, it was a good take on it. It's still a concept that's been done many times before, and they didn't rewrite the book. And I understand that you can't rewrite the book, but there's nothing there that I think pushed it up that high. Pushed it up beyond. But it, like you said, it was definitely a very, very fun movie, very enjoyable movie. Definitely a movie I'll watch again. Definitely a movie that now I'm very much looking forward to seeing where they go with it on the sequel that they're talking about. And it's honestly enough that it is intrigued me enough that I'm like, I might even at some point in time go to preserve Father Gabe's books and just take a peek at what's in those and what those are like. It's piqued my interest enough. It's pretty cool. Again, I fully enjoyed it. So
absolutely, I 100% agree. I think I'll probably go around at some point and read some of those books, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I love to read. I've got so many books; it's so hard to find time to read. But it's one of those things that I would like to have. I think so. I can thumb through and just take bits and see what it was, how it compares. I like to do that. I'd like to kind of make comparisons from the source material. So I'd be intrigued. And obviously, I know there's a lot more in the books that's wasn't told in this movie. So I'd like to see what else is out there. So there you have it. Pope's Exorcist, 3.5 out of 5 screams from your Listen to Their Screams ghouls. Fun movie. Go see it or purchase it or rent it on video on demand or do both. Whatever it might be. Highly recommend you do it. Next episode, there's nothing really new for us to do. Or the next 2 episodes, there's really nothing new, no new releases for us that we're going to review. So we're doing a couple of classics that have anniversaries coming up. And we're starting next episode with reviewing Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Because on May 13th of this year, this movie will celebrate its 35th anniversary. So that's what we're going to watch and talk about next week. I'm excited. I always like to dive into a Friday. And then we'll go ahead and say it. The week after, though, I'm just Bestie bar the door because it's going to be fun. Because the next episode, 2 episodes out, we're doing Killer Clowns from Outer Space because it's the 35th anniversary of that. And holy shit, one of my favorite movies of all time. I cannot wait to talk Killer Clowns. That episode, I forewarn you, it may go like 4 hours. I may do a dramatic retelling of the entire movie. Who knows? But I can't wait for that. But anyway, next week first, Friday, Part 7, New Blood. I'm looking forward to that. That's a fun movie to watch. One I've seen I don't even know how many times. But I'll watch it again because I love it.
Too many times to count.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to look at it with impartial eyes and actually critique and give it a review. And I'm sure there'll be lots of fun facts to pull out about it. And when you get these older movies, there's always a lot of fun facts to pull out. So, but that puts a bow on it, Ike. Before we get out of here this week, anything else you want to throw out there and say?
I can't think of anything quippy to say, so I'll just say cuckoo, cuckoo.
I love it. I've gone around this entire week so to see that just walk around and go cuckoo, and I do the little hand motion he did. I don't know what that was. If it was like a bird thing, it was fun. So all I have to do is follow along with the Winchester Brothers of Supernatural. Get an anti-possession tattoo so that a demon does not possess you. I don't know, no guarantees that works, but hell, what do you got to lose?
That's right.
If nothing else, you're paying homage to a couple of hot guys in a great TV show. So what the fuck? It's good enough. So, but until next episode, where we're going to talk Friday the 13th, Part 7. Make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you follow us on all the social media outlets that was discussed earlier. And until next week, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.